All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Hope everybody is having a good Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So, in memory of Martin Luther King Jr. All right, so let me get this tweeted out for everybody so we get started here. All right, awesome. Well, I hope everybody had a great weekend. Obviously, today is Memorial Day for a great American. So we remember that today, and the markets were closed today. So, but we're back at it tomorrow. So, looking forward to that. But I do hope everybody got some rest and had an opportunity to reflect and had a good day and a good weekend. So here we are, awesome stuff. So today we're going to be talking about this week. We're going to be doing some Fibonacci stuff, right? So this is going to be based on the Carolyn Borden book, right? How to Master Time and Price Advantage, right? The big Fibonacci book by Fibonacci Queen Carolyn Borden. So we're going to be going over some of those concepts this week, and I think you guys will like that. So I think it'll be a good discussion this week. Before we get started today, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. All right, awesome. So we're going to start. We're going to just take a look and see, take a peek at the market here and see where we left off. The monthly chart bullish, right? So well over the upper Bollinger Band, right, on the monthly chart. The weekly chart did a big push over the upper Bollinger Band. Now this is one possibility, one potential for a pullback when the RSI is overbought and you're over the weekly and the Bollinger Band. We sometimes do see pullbacks on that. So the daily chart is also extended as well. But again, we're holding trend and still working our way up. Now, the futures are down this evening, and there's no real news out this evening, so it's kind of interesting. So maybe the market finally hit a wall on Friday and is pulling back, but we will continue to monitor that and take a look at it. In fact, before we do that, let's just take a look at the price action, what we saw on Friday. So it's a choppy day again, right? A couple of big candles here to try to get out of the 15-order levels, and just couldn't do it. But every drop back has been bought, and so we saw it kind of chop around for the most of the day. We saw it inside 15 at a pop at the close. We're seeing a lot of that, a lot of these kind of choppy days recently, right? Gap up, chop, and then a push at the close. So in this day, it kind of came down, and then we pushed up at the close too. So some of the levels that we look at, right? So these are the levels that we provide to our members. So here you can see here on the 17th. These were the levels, right? We stayed pretty tightly within the range here between our R2 and R1 levels and just kind of chopped around there. We did have a nice little northern doji hammer right here that eventually worked up and gave that pop into the close. Right, you can see we broke out of this geometric line and gave a nice pop there. So let's pull up the S&P futures here and just kind of take a look at what's happening. So today again, and we'll use this as a tool to kind of go over what we're talking about this evening. So again, we're going to be talking about day trading with Fibonacci's, and we're going to be talking about retracements, extensions, and the POs. This is a little term that Carolyn uses in her book: projections and objectives. Okay, so she kind of combines that into one time. So projection objective is what she calls that. So that's what we have as the PO. So it's a pretty cool little tool there. So good stuff. So let's just take a look at, let's just kind of review a couple of the different tools that are out there, and then they'll kind of build on where we're going to be talking about this week. So the first one, right? So the first concept that we're going to talk about are retracements, right? So everybody knows the retracement, right? It's a tool that we can use, and it basically just helps us see, between major pivot points, what possible turning points there might be. Okay, so it's in the bottom right-hand corner. If you guys use Thinkorswim, it's just the little percentage one there called Fibonacci retracement. We've talked about this before, but I just kind of want to give a review over these, and then we'll talk about the projection objectives in a moment here. So all you do is you take that little percent tool that's down here, right? You take it from one pivot, right, so a major high to a major low, right, and you look for retracement levels, and you can see here that let me push this to the side a little bit here. Let me extend this to the left so you can see it. Okay, so you can see right here, right? These are the kind of the standard retracement levels. These are all your Fibonacci percent levels, your 618, your 382, your 50% retrace. Although not a Fibonacci number, it's still a significant level, right? Then you have your 78.6 and your 23.6. Okay, so you can see here with the S&P futures tonight, right? So we originally had a push down, right? This is from the other day, right? And we came all the way back up into the end of the day on Friday here, right? For a push, and there was a little bit of trading here today, right? Until that got muted, and then the futures opened up and are giving a big push down this evening. So, but look where it came to, right? So a couple different pops right here. So your first pop right here was to the 23.6, held a little bit, got to 38.2, came back down again, pushed to the 50%, got all the way to the 61.8 retracement, and then today, this evening, right, we got a big push down, which broke down to these levels down here. So we're at this 33.09 level. We'll see how well this gets defended. Now, is there any news tonight? Not really. The only news that's really been coming out is this the coronavirus, right? So apparently 4 have passed away in China based on this this strain of some are comparing it to SARS, interesting what they're saying though too is that there's other economic data that was going on in China too, but it came out after sort of the drop started. So either somebody had a heads up on that or whatever the case is. But right now I'm not really seeing any major news that's affecting this, except possibly this could be a catalyst. So we're seeing a big push down here after hours. One of the concepts that we're going to talk about here is projections, and I'll kind of show you something that's interesting on the S&P, on the SPX, which we'll talk about. We're going to spend a whole day talking about symmetries too, so that's coming up this week as well. So this is the retracement tool, so you can see how it can kind of show you different major levels between major pivot points. Okay. So the next one we're going to pull up, right, is the extension tool. So the extension tool, you can take it from pivot to pivot, right, and you can find potential target points as well. So this is one thing that we use to look for different levels. So one thing we could do is we could go to the pivot point here, and what you do is you do a pullback. Now it doesn't necessarily have to be a 100% pullback to the first level, but it is interesting, right? So you could do it at different levels, right, to different pivots, right, here, 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 right, and kind of get an idea of where we might be going. So this is a pullback if you're looking at waves. This could be your first wave down. This is your wave up. So if you're looking for a wave move down, you could use these Fibonacci extensions to look for a potential target. So right here, you can see that we've pushed down initially. We got to the 100% retracement right here, and we found a little bit of a bounce at the 1.272. Okay. Right, and we came back up here this evening. We got back to the 100% retracement, right, and kind of back down here to the 1.382, and we're seeing a little bit of a bounce here, and we may be getting down to the 1.618. Now this is subjective, right? So it all depends on part of your trading plan, how you do it. So with L8 Wave and other different tools like that, right? A lot of times they do it from wave to wave, so you can get an extension for a possible move to the next wave down. Okay, and so that's one way to do it. You don't have to go from a different pivot to a different pivot. You can actually do it from the same pivot back, and that would actually give you your true 100% retracements. And that is one of the methods that she talks about in her book for looking for cluster zones, which we'll be talking about this week as well. So one thing we can do is do an extension from here, back to this level right here, and then back up to the same level. Right, and we can also see that there are other significant levels that were tested this evening as well. So we had the 1.618. Now we're seeing a bounce off just from here to here. This is just an extension to the exact same levels. Right, we see we got a bounce here off the 227.2. Right, so we're seeing that as a significant level. So what that does show is that this is a cluster, and we'll talk about that a little more this week. So if we go from here to here, right, we can see that we can get some cluster zones, and sometimes those cluster zones can be important significant areas, right? So we could see here at the 200% retracement is also the 1.618 extension from those two levels. So you can see here, right? So if I do if I just put a line on these, right? So these cluster zones, tend to be a little bit more significant over time. Okay, so we can see that these were some major cluster zones right here, and the next one down is there's this, right? And the next one down is kind of this cluster zone down here, this 3306. So if we remove these levels, here and here, right, we can see these cluster zones, how they play out as levels, right? And these are things that can be done initially if we're expecting a particular move down. We can just kind of draw these on our charts if we don't want to have Fibonacci's all over the place, and and we could see that where these cluster zones form, right? We had a nice bounce of that, and see how these levels are significant, right? So bounces between these levels. So the next level down is here. So we'll see how this 3306, if that gets tested tonight, or if the plunge protection team comes in and buys this thing back up into the open. So we've seen much worse than this. We're down 15. We've seen it down 50 in a complete recovery of it. So we'll see where we end up in the morning. But I like being able to show this live here using the S&P futures and also kind of talking about the different concepts that we're going over. So we went over those. We went over the retracement. Remember, that's just the percentage tool down here. You can't really see me hovering over it, but you can see what it looks like here. So that's your retracement tool. We have the extension tool here. And then we can also use the extension tool from one level to the exact same level to find, basically how far it was from one distance to another, instead of just drawing a line, to say like this. And we'll do this a little bit this week as well. We go from here to here and just kind of, maybe duplicate it or activate it and just kind of move it down here, right? That's your 100% line right here to get the distance. Sometimes it's easier to use with the extension tool just from the pivot high to the pivot low. So that helps us find symmetries, which we're going to talk about this week too. So hopefully you guys find that helpful. And at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those into the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. try to wrap up a little bit early so we can all stay fresh, right? Everybody, hopefully is rested from the holiday weekend, and have a good trading day tomorrow. So good stuff. So I had a few that came in through DM and through email. So Alex sent a few in here. So we have TEVA and VIAV. So let's take a look. Let's pull these up on our daily chart. So TEVA, this is one I saw spoke about fondly. I think Options Mike talk about this. He's one of our favorite guests here on the show. And so so pretty interesting stuff. I also like how we have our Fibonacci, our Fib fan lines, which we drew from the I believe from the all-time high, or the not the all-time high, but a recent pivot high here to a recent low, and we can see that TEVA came back and tested this level here, this Fibonacci fan line, and came up off of it. So let's take a look at it and see what's going on. So we can see here we had a nice breakout candle right here through the cloud, and that gave a real nice move up. If you use the Fib fan line as a target, it hit target, gave you an upper shadow, right, with a shooting star formation, and this gave an evening star reversal. Okay, so we have a green candle followed by a real body that gapped above the real body of the prior candle, right, and then we were followed by a red candle in an upward move that retraced over 50% of the range of the first candle. So this is an evening star setup right here. So typically it's a little bit bearish, and we may see a move down to the 50-day moving average and possibly to the cloud. So that looks pretty interesting, and I think something we should keep on our short radar for tomorrow if the market maintains this weakness. So good stuff, great chart there. And then VIAV we have. Let's take a look here. Okay. Good. Jumping all over the place here. All right, VIAV. Okay, pretty interesting one too. So VIAV Solutions, VIAV Solutions had a real big breakout candle right here. Now this candle could not get over these previous levels. Okay, it basically pushed into support. Now it did gap up the next day and give a nice little gap up and a little push, right? But it found some selling pressure in these areas here, and it gave you a doji, and then ultimately a little bit of a doji reversal. Now it did give a lower shadow right here, and it's holding for 50% of the range of that big candle. So let's see if that holds, but ultimately it needs to close ideally strongly with the green candle over these levels, and then maybe it can work its way up to try to test that big pivot high right there. So good stuff. All right, and Cheryl sent in GLD. So let's take a look at that, GLD. So GLD is interesting. So the gold is up. It's up pretty significantly here on this this push down. In fact, a big push up on gold. But right now we're seeing it, obviously the little upper shadow here on these levels. Now gold trades a little bit differently than most other stocks because it gaps a lot. It almost moves like an ADR. Right? Because, it's basically where the futures are the next day, and it just kind of gaps, right? So it leaves these gaps here, but let's take a look at the gold futures. And it's kind of the gold futures are a better thing to look at, right? To determine whether or not it makes sense to take a trade. But right now they're up pretty significantly. They're up 7 points here, and they're over all these key levels right here. So obviously the day is not over yet. So we'll see how that closes, but some pretty good volume has come in right now, and it's showing that gold has been a safety trade recently. So now I wouldn't have necessarily gone long on this one, right? Because you can see this key level right here. We had an inside bar, and we failed to get over it here with this upper shadow. But right now it's pushing, and so if it continues to push, we may see a nice move on that. Now, one of the things we are seeing is a gap up in GLD. And some of the other ones, the miners, GDX, we're seeing gap ups, and then they push it back down at the open. So it's just something to keep an eye on to see if that is one of the strategies they're going to use tomorrow. It might gap up, and then we might see a fade on that tomorrow. So we have to really take a look and see what kind of news and fun stuff comes in. If there's any, more trade deals. I don't really know what type of news right now they're going to use to get this market strong, or what they're going to use as an excuse to say why it's down right now. So we'll see. But GLD can be a good safety play. So good stuff. And Shirley sent in a few. So we have QCOM. So a lot of the com names, right? A lot of the telecommunication names, things like that, have been very strong recently, right? We can see that off of their ETFs. But QCOM had a good day. We did a day trade on this on Friday. It was really strong, right? We got over all these key levels, right, after a gap up. So we had a gap and go trade on this one. It traded really nicely. Let's take a look at that here. So you can see we had a nice push at the open, cleared all the pre-market levels. Then we had a nice little inside 15 doji, which then plowed through with good volume the 15 orb high, and that made it for a nice trade right there. Then we had a double inside 15, held about 50% of the range of that big candle, and then worked its way back up to the highs of that candle and kind of chopped around there for the rest of the day. So you can see it made for a nice candle. We're going to look for bullishness in that one tomorrow. So it should be pretty good. So we're going to keep an eye on that one as well. It's a nice one there, Shirley. We also have LKEY on the list. So LKEY has been interesting. Hasn't given very traditional breakout bars, It definitely hasn't given really strong follow through on anyone, but it has given follow through. So one of the things we can see here is this recent trend up. We're still holding that. So again, we're bullish until proven otherwise. But we do see a lot of upper shadows on the way up, which makes it a little bit painful to swing, right? So this day here was a good candle. We gapped down a little bit, then they pushed it and got a nice move up. Pause day up again, but then an upper shadow, right? Then it got a little bit weak here, but held the trend, right? It's continuing to work its way up. So it's a tough one to really swing, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. It's been a fun one to trade, right? ATVI. This finally gave a breakout move here with some increased volume on Friday. So looking pretty good here. Now, it has a lot to work with on right here, right? There's a little bit of a gap above, so you have that as a potential target. Okay, and earnings coming up too, so it has a lot of ground to cover, but it's finally starting to show some breakout moves, and I do like the increased volume, and I like this candle, but again, you have to evaluate the risk reward to see if it makes sense after it fills that gap, if it really is worth any type of swing. Okay, and then Apple, of course, has just been dominating the whole market. We'll see if if these futures are the start or a catalyst of a down move in the market. Right, we may see a push down on this as well. So one of the things I wanted to show too while we're on Apple here is just one of the things I want to show here on SPX is this. So we're going to be talking about Symmetry this week. So one of the things on Symmetry that I wanted to show is here. Okay, so one of the things I found pretty interesting when I was preparing for tonight's discussion and this week's discussion is this, right? So we look for these kind of moves, and we'll talk more about Symmetry this week, but I just kind of want to give you a preview here. So from December, right, of 2018 and the big Christmas reversal right into 2019, right, we had a really strong push up here until the first major pivot, right? And so what I did is just kind of showed the distance to the next pivot here, right? And what I did is just kind of projected that forward, right? So if you take the exact distance from here to here and just kind of move it, just shift the line here to here, I find it very interesting, right, that the whole distance from this major pivot up is right here, right where we closed on Friday. So if the market is at a top, this is not such a bad place to say, hey, look, it was a symmetrical move up, and we may be starting to see a correction in the market. If not, I've drawn another symmetrical one to these next levels here, right? Kind of this next kind of pivot area here for the next move up. So if the market really wanted to, it doesn't have to go in a straight line. We might just see a little pullback and then a push up. Then we can see another thrust up to this 3480 and this 3500 level. So that's just kind of a preview into some of the stuff that we're looking at this week and these symmetrical lines. So Apple is definitely interesting and has been more than symmetrical. In fact, that'll be one of those projection levels, right? It's certainly looking pretty extreme on that one. And then TCOM is another interesting one that Shirley mentioned, and we like this one as well. I think it's did a nice move. It had a nice candle that broke out above a double inside day, right? So it closed over a lot of these key levels here, and I think it can test possibly this breakdown zone as well, right? And we can see this, right? It's cleared all these major trend line areas, right? And over all these pivots, so it may be working on a move up. So looking very interesting there. So good stuff, Shirley. Enlighten me, what's going on? Oh, you got in a little bit early. That's cool. Paul, what's going on? Roku, let's take a look. Hope you're doing great and had a great weekend. So Roku's pretty interesting, right? So it's been kind of contained within these levels. It keeps holding these. There seems to be buying pressure in this 127 area, right? It tries to break down to the cloud, can't do it. Tries to break down to the cloud, can't do it. Real nasty candle right here. A little push down, can't do it. Right now we keep on lower shadow to it. So as long as it continues to test this, now we have 3 tests right here. 4th time could be the charm if it wants to. The 200-day moving average is down here. If not, right, we may see it start to work its way back up to the cloud. If it can get over the 50-day moving average and over the cloud, we may see it try to fill this gap up here. It's got earnings coming up mid-February. Good stuff. Good to see you. Nick, what's up, man? Good to see you. V, yeah, let's take a look. So V's just been kind of plowing its way up here, right? I think we have the extensions that we drew recently up here, so we're kind of getting pretty close to an extension target, the 2.272, right? But a big move. This was kind of the day to really kind of get interested, right? Because we had increase in volume. We closed basically over all the all-time high levels very strongly, and then we had a couple drifty days, a little bit of a red hammer, and then a big move out of there, doji sandwich up, and this has just been really strong, I think, with some of the China Pay news and things like that. This has gotten pretty much one of the biggest boosts in the sector. So it's looking pretty good up here. Again, it's about hitting that Fibonacci target as well. But you have a Fib fan line up here at 210, so that's another possible area that it could go. AMT, inside day. American Tower, this is another good one too. I think it's a play for your your 5G type stuff, right? We had a nice candle right here with a breakout move and then a follow-up candle here, right? We're starting to see a little bit of a pullback. This could be a bit of a flag that's working on, and then we may see another continuation move up. This is one to look at for strength. And then snap. Yeah, pretty big stuff here. It's been tough to chase. It's been actually a really kind of rough and grindy swing to the upside, right? There's a couple candles right here. You had this one, which kind of snuck its head out over the cloud. And then you have this breakout candle right here, which closed over all these levels. You had a nice gap up the next day, but then an upper shadow and just a lot of chop in here. You did get a gap up the next day with a big upper shadow and then an inside day. So this has been really, really tricky, right? So it likes to do all this stuff. And then it finally gave this... who knows what this is going to become, but it did give a lone star up a doji star, right? So with some pretty big volume. So we'll see if that gets any continuation on that one. But this is definitely one to keep an eye on too. Great stuff, great charts. Enlighten me, what's going on? Doing great, man. Thank you for tuning in. Michael, what's up? What's up? LSCC and MU. Let's take a look here. Whoa, yeah. This one had a big day the other day as well. Huge volume came in, right? If we go to the 15-minute chart here, my grapefruit I was eating, right, had a big breakout over the 15 orb right here on huge volume relative for the stock, right? So not a big mover, not a big volume stock, but then volume really started to come in. It started to ramp up right here. So whenever you see this, if you have like a radar, anytime you see 4 or 5 times volume, I think, let's see, this was 15,000 to 100. So anytime you see 10x volume on something intraday, it's definitely something to take an interest in, right? So you closed over all these levels here, got a nice hammer, and then you got that big spike off of it here. And then, of course, you had the retracement, right, which is over 50% here. It looks like almost a 0.618, right? We could put the retracement tool up here. Right, so, wow. Actually, if we go back here. Yeah, so we're seeing a 78.6% retracement intraday off of that candle, and then it ended up bouncing off of that. But this is kind of your clue. If you can get a scanner that says looks for 10x volume intraday, this is definitely one to keep an eye on here in terms of volume. And it got a huge spike on that one intraday. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, right? So it's probably gathered some interest off of that. It left an upper shadow here. Right, so it's going to take a while. It could take a while for it to get above it, but if some news comes out or something like that, it could be pretty interesting. So what else did they have any news? Call sweeps. I mean, really just nothing. I mean, that was basically it. So just got a lot of interest that day. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, right, to see if it gets more volume coming in it. And then MU. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty tight here. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles, maybe 10 candles. This could be the a congestion that we talked about last week. And if we can get a nice breakout candle out of here, we may see a nice move on Micron too. So good one to keep an eye on there. It's holding up pretty well. Nate, what's happening? Good to see you. Beyond, yeah, so Beyond, BYND, I actually tweeted about this tonight. Trader Stewie tweeted one of my favorite setups, the double inside day on Beyond, so I definitely wanted to mention that there. So, and we're right at the top of the cloud. So after a big move, right, we saw this big, not only, right, this was your, not just the congestion, right? This was really just a very much a range bound, trading in ranges, right? So we saw this big breakout candle right here. It didn't get out of the prior range, but it got out of this range. Right? So we saw a little move up. And then this candle here was saying, hey, I want to get out of this range. Then we saw this pause candle here, and then a big push up on that one, right? So now we've pulled back a little bit. We're still holding about 50% of the range of this one. We're holding this prior level, right? We have a double inside day. So if it breaks to the upside, we may see a strong move on that one. We'll see. It'll probably still be in play. And then Shaq was one of the other ones that we talked about with some breakout moves too, right? This got out of a big trading range here on big volume and a big candle, got a big gap up the next day, right? And now it seems to be kind of forming a fresh range in here. So we'll see how that does. We're 3 days into it with an inside day. We're back inside that range, right? So we need to really see a strong candle over these guys. You got your 200 moving average right here. You've got the levels and we're into the gap. If it shows it wants to get in the gap, then we may start to work our way out of the cloud, which then correspond to a gap fill. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Wendy, what's going on? Good morning. I hope you're doing well in Singapore. Thank you for tuning in. Enlighten me. You've been waiting to learn more about fibs too. Good. Yeah. So this is, I think, a pretty cool tool. Again, take fibs with a grain of salt. They're neat, right? But just use them for guidance. Just for guides and all that stuff. Folks take them really, really seriously and think they're set in stone, and they're really not. And a lot of folks do them in a lot of different ways. So you need to find what is consistent for you. I'm just kind of introducing to the tools, and I'm going to show you how Carolyn talks about it in her books for some strategies that maybe you can fit into your trading plan. So good stuff. Samit, what's going on? We got Mickey D's. some real burgers, but don't forget they also have some fake burgers in their lineup in some areas. So McDonald's has been super strong, right? We had a huge trading range here, and we had a big breakout candle with this one. Inside day for the patient, anybody who went long on this one for a swing, right? And then it broke out of that range here, gave another inside day. You had to be patient with that as well. And then another breakout move, right? And then it finally gave an inside day here, a 2-day pullback, and continued to work its way up. So it's basically getting really close to the scene of the original breakdown, right? It's back in the 200s again, right? So now we just want to see how it holds these levels, right? To me, it seems like it would probably, continue to consolidate, and then earnings will give us some clue on that one. And then, of course, beyond, right, we have the double inside day, so we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that one over the tomorrow for sure to see if we can get a breakout move out of the cloud, right? And then Uber. Apparently, Uber just sold some business. Uber sells Indian food delivery unit to rival Zomato. Okay, so they just did that tonight. So that should be one we could definitely keep an eye on. We could even put on our 15 orb list, for tomorrow, because it'll probably be gapping on news. Even if it's gapping with the market, it's still some pretty significant news, right? So we'll see if that gives it anything to hold its recent trend up. But this has been a good one. This is our trade of the week idea for newsletter subscribers 2 weeks ago, right? We had a nice breakout candle, and then you got some real nice follow through on that one. So that was a good job for members who got to catch that. Paul, what's going on, my friend? Hope you had a great weekend. Enlighten me. Yeah, this will definitely be recorded, so you can always look later and enlighten me. Absolutely. Absolutely, we record them all. And I'll retweet it tonight. Michael Phillips, yes. Yep. Matthew, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Space Guy for Life, what's up? Virus, short China stock. Yep. Hotels long. CVS, WM Biotech, PFE for vaccines. Absolutely. Good ideas. And look at the volume. I know it's a huge volume tonight. So, yep. Thanks for sending those out too as ideas, especially. Very, very good. WBA is interesting, but CVS is probably more in play, right? So CVS, WBA is kind of like this buyout candidate, or they're looking at going private. So it really hasn't been tradable recently. But we had a nice breakout candle on CVS here, and we'll see if they get some move there. And then PFE also gave us a nice trade this week as well. We had a strong candle and a nice gap up for members there, and that's holding up as well. It might be doing like a little bit of a pennant up here too. So we'll keep an eye on that. Great stuff. Yeah, Ryan, so, not really anything major. It seems to just be kind of pouty after the weekend, right? So, maybe there's not a lot of folks out defending it. Maybe the plunge protection team isn't around, that type of stuff. But, it could be just a technical drop based on the symmetry levels I pointed out. But again, there's some of the news in China. There's some economic data coming out that, they're infusing a bunch of money into their market. So it may show like some general weakness, in the economy, global economy. So it's something to keep an eye on there. Paul, yeah, SPCE, thank you. We're going to put that on our radar as well. We have an inside day after a big move up, right? So we're kind of forming a little bit of a pennant up here. But these are the levels right here is your key breakout candle with some big volume, right? We got a big push through here. Once we closed above these levels, right, it was just like, clear air up there. So we're seeing some consolidation up here after a big move up. Let's see if that holds and then gives another pop to the upside. Cloud guy, yeah. TW2U. Inc. Yeah, so big shadow, big volume came in the other day, but we really needed this thing to close above these levels here, so we're going to wait for that and then see if we can maybe get a move up to the 200-day moving average on that one. CRSP. Yeah, kind of middle of the range right here. It's holding a lot of key levels, right? But it needs some sort of candle to show us, to give us some confidence that this thing is ready, right? So here's your trend box level right here. So let's see if we can close above that. And then maybe this thing could work on a cloud break on it. I think it's been pretty strong, right? It had a big move up here. It got over the 50-day moving average, gave a huge move up. It's been in kind of this kind of consolidation area right here, right? Almost a, it could be like a falling wedge type formation. It's been holding this gap level right here. So let's see if we can get strong and work its way out of the cloud. And then PLT. So that also had some good moves up right here, right? Had a huge gap down, right? And finally gave a few breakout candles that really started its way back up. So it got to the cloud, gave a strong candle right here. Not a lot of volume on that one. They gave an upper shadow and not quite an evening star reversal, but it's back in the cloud with some relatively high volume. So this is tricky right here. You kind of have to just check your candles and see what levels it's going to hold, right? So at this point, I want to see it close back above the cloud and then maybe try to give another shot up at the 200-day moving average. So good stuff there. Enlighten me, yeah, I got a couple in there. Yeah, so Schwab Schwab put in a little bit of an upper shadow the other day. It's still holding trend, but it's pretty extended, right? The RSI is getting pretty pushed up there. It's up to the 80 level already, so we'll see. It may want to cool down up here a little bit, but it has had a pretty epic run up, so that's been pretty interesting here as well. Tesla, I mean, Tesla could be overbought forever, right? It's got earnings coming up a little bit. We were hoping it would hold the high of this candle right here, but it decided it wanted to hold the breakout level, so that's good. It held this gap. Then we got a little bit of a pause candle here the other day, and this is actually one to look at if the market is weak tomorrow. It does like to trade inverse of the market, so let's see if we can get back up to these breakdown levels up here. So that could be pretty interesting as well. And then TLRY. Again, not really the go-to one in this sector, right? It's strong, right? And it got a lot of volume just based on the sector itself, but never got a breakout move yet, right? So we want to see it close above, kind of this pivot level right here for it to start going. CGC in this sector really gave more of a breakout move, right? Now we just have to see if that gets any follow through on that one. And of course, the MJ ETF is kind of tracking it. So we had a little bit of a couple breakout candles right here, but it's a little bit choppy as well. So CGC is kind of like the leader in that sector right now. So definitely want to keep an eye on. And then SHAC, of course, with the breakout move, and it's kind of consolidating here as well. So let's see if we can get over these recent levels, over the 200-day moving average, and try to get out of this cloud here. I'm going to remove a couple of these old orb levels right here. They are significant, but they can clutter things up. So we want to see it get over the 200-day moving average and then work its way to the cloud for a gap fill. Yeah, my pleasure. Andrea, what's going on? Real. Yeah, so the real ink, right? Real choppy. Okay, so some big levels right here. This is going to be a key level here, this 19.5. If we can close bullishly above that, we may be able to get ourselves out of the cloud and then retest some of these breakdown levels here. But so far we're range trading right now, which gets a little bit challenging. Trade, Amazon, yeah. So I really wish that was a green candle on Friday. But unfortunately, Amazon hasn't really been playing along with the rest of the FANG team, right? It's just been kind of like double inside 15 down, right? Here's your 15 orb down on Friday. It just has not, shown a lot of relative strength recently. It had these big breakout candles, right? But, in terms of consolidation, it hasn't been really standard consolidation, right? You get a big candle right here, a big volume, then it kind of just chops around and comes back down. So right now, this is kind of your most recent, upward trend line. We've closed below it. We're holding some support levels. We do have a gap below, right? We've got, this prior resistance level right here could serve as support right at the 200-day moving average. It seems like it's going to be pretty challenging to trade except for some day trades, and it's going to get pretty expensive because earnings are coming up and premiums are high. So we have to keep an eye on that as well. So it's kind of out of play until earnings. We'll see. We'll see if it makes a big move for earnings. I have a feeling it will. Nudie Poo, yeah, UNG. So UNG is interesting, right? It just, it looked like it wanted to give a move, right? We had this downward trend line right here. It gave a nice pivot above that, but now we kind of have to get rid of all this stuff because it put in fresh lows, so we have a fresh trend line. So let's remove all these possibilities and shift this back here. Oh, activate. So it goes to low. So this is now the new trend line right here. So we're kind of deep below the trend line right now. It's kind of out of play now. It is bearish, right, until proven otherwise, right? So any move up to the trend line could potentially be shortable. But again, this thing gaps all around too. So we just have to kind of keep an eye on it as well. But again, I want to see it back over the trend line strong with some strength, and then maybe it can start going again. And then CGC, we just took a little glance at there. But again, CGC had, this is a great candle, good breakout candle, small gap down, then it powered through it and gave it, a pretty decent move up there to that 26 level. Inside day down, but back in the range. So let's see if it is, just consolidating here, maybe giving like a little bit of a pennant, and then possibly trying to work its way up to its gap fill up there. They got the 200-day moving average there as well. Chris, yeah, Piton is a good long over 32. Let's take a look. So let's see, we have Piton here. So Piton over 32, yeah, it depends how it closes, right? So I want to see some more strength in this, right? It is a major level, right? So if it can close above kind of like these guys here, I know it's close 32.39, 32.50-ish, right? But a strong candle in here with some good volume, could get this thing going again. It is a possibility. And we're going to talk about another pattern here, which is kind of setting up as well, which could be interesting. So you have to be careful, right? Because it might actually be working on a move down. Right, so each move up is is potentially shortable, right? So we want to see if this guy, forms symmetry, and then we see another move down there too. So that's just another one to look at. But we could be working. I want to see some strength in it. Wendy, yeah. So Netflix. So Netflix's earnings coming up after the close tomorrow on Tuesday, right? So we have an inside day here. It's getting really, really tight up here. So let's see how if this tightness, right, if this compression leads to expansion one way or another. Now Facebook does, I mean Netflix does sometimes like to chop around at earnings, right? Sometimes it can give a big gap up, but it comes right back in. So if you know if you're playing it as a lotto, just be really, really careful with that one, right? Home Depot definitely looking strong. I've loved these candles right here. It had a nice little breakout move the other day. It's still looking strong. I want to see it close over these levels here, and then we could possibly see a little gap fill up on it. So that's definitely looking pretty good. Schwab had earnings the other day. Wasn't very great, right? Kind of gapped down, but they recovered well. It had good earnings, right? So now let's just see if we can close above those levels, see if we can get back to this highs. And then, and then Ulta, the ultimate. So it did give a couple nice moves up here. A few of our members caught this move up, right? And then it came, look at that, came right up to our old pitchfork level right here and had an inside day down. So a little bit of a doji sandwich down there. So let's see if it holds these levels. Right, here's your prior resistance level right here. See if it holds that as support, and then we'll look for some setups on that one. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Dimitri. What's going on? Yeah, my pleasure. Wendy. Yeah, if we have time, UAL. So these airlines, are kind of getting in there with Boeing, right? We had DAL the other day, right, which had a good move up, right, on earnings. But it wasn't a strong candle, but it had a big gap up on that. So UAL's got its earnings coming up really soon, right? So we'll see if that can get it, maybe do some fun stuff in here and get us out of this crazy area that it's in right now. And then SWKS. This is one that does like to move, likes to move with Apple a little bit. Sometimes there's a sympathy play with that, but we're seeing still a strong trend up right here, and it's holding its trend line. So let's see if that continues to hold. And AXP again, like I said, it's not the ideal one in the sector, right? V has been really good. This one's just been kind of a little bit nasty intraday, but it is still kind of closing higher. And then TXN. Yeah, this is one we like to see too, and it can trade well. I'd like to see it close over that 132.2 level with some increased volume. We got earnings coming on this as well, so that's another one to kind of keep in mind too. So just keep an eye out for that one. Trina, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. NOC. Yep, so Northrop Grumman, this has been it was a good war play here with the Iranian stuff, right? Nice gap up on this one. We played LMT in our group, and it was an excellent trade, right? And it's still kind of working its way up here at inside day up, but it's it's struggling to get over kind of its all-time pivot highs right here. So let's see if we can get a good strong close over that with increased volume, and who knows? Just be careful because you have earnings coming on that as well. Hey, what's up, Kotis Swararo? What's going on, Diz? Take a look. Yeah, so Diz looking pretty good right here. Looking interesting, right? So it had a double inside day, and failed to break to the upside, tried to gap up, and it kind of pushed its way back down. This thing's just been really, really choppy in here. We really want to see it close over this guy, right? If it closes over this guy, it gets over this trend line, right, and then starts to work its way back up again. But yeah, really, really kind of chop zone right now. Trade, yeah, my pleasure. Kote, yeah, let's see. So what else do we have? AbbVie. Okay, so we had an inside day on that down to the 50-day moving average. So let's see if it can give you maybe a bounce off of that. If not, right, we're kind of range bound, and we want to see here it close above these levels, right, to try to work its way up a little bit. Jibbin for giggles, what's up? ANET. So ANET's been pretty strong, right? So big gap up here, right, corresponds to the 200-day moving average. It looks like it wants it, right? So this is definitely a good one to keep an eye on as well. So the 200-day moving average almost served as a trend line right here, right? Once it finally broke over that, got out of the cloud, right, it's starting to move again. So this is a strong one that we should keep our eyes on too. Thomas, Triple M, because the Chinese face mask makers are up 10% midday according to CNBC. Nice. I like the smiley face there. Yeah, this could be a good one as well. So again, see if we can close above these levels. Earnings coming up pretty soon, right? So it's getting a little congestion area right here. If we can get above these, right, we might see a move and test of these kind of breakdown levels here. So yeah, so that could be a good one for a play on this contamination stuff that's going on. So yeah, good stuff there. And then Michael Phillips, BTC. So let's see. Yep, there we go. So Community Bankers Trust. I'm not sure this is what you're talking about. You do have some congestion right here. But if you're talking about Bitcoin, here's the Bitcoin futures. Not seeing too much activity right here, but again, we're still kind of consolidating a little bit. Could be putting a little flag pattern for you here. So let's see. It's holding the 200-day moving average. We do want to see the 50 cross back above, to show any actual strength on this one. So no, I know. Yeah, I kind of figured you were talking about that. So good stuff. All right, guys. Well, good. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. I hope you guys, the basics, everybody's kind of familiar with, your retracement tools, expansion tools, extension tools, and we went over some projection objective ideas on that as well. So that's going to build upon some of the discussion later this week. So I hope you guys tune in for the rest of the week. It's a short week, so we're only doing a few this week. We'll be finished up on Thursday. But I hope everybody has a great night tonight, and thank you everybody for your chart requests. If you're new here, definitely subscribe on YouTube and please click the like button. We always appreciate that. And be sure to check out the links in the description. So I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you soon. Hey, experience and thoughts, MMC. Let's take a look real quick. Yep, nice close the other day here on Marsh McClellan. So a nice close over these levels here. Good volume. Earnings coming up. Could possibly give you an earnings run on that one. So yeah, Thomas, my pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you everybody for your support. I hope everybody has a great evening, and once again, remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you guys soon.